Hi there, welcome back. Well, today's vlog won't take very long. I just had a couple stories to tell you. You see, when I was on the train headed to Cork, I sat next to a lovely old Irish gentleman, and we got to talking, and he introduced himself as Sean. I said that was kind of funny that he was named Sean, not John, because I'd met so many Johns in Ireland. He said, oh, but it is John, Sean or John. So, these are tales from Sean or John. While we were riding along in the train, he told me stories, and at the end of the journey, he told me to share them. So, I'm sharing them with you. So the first story, he and his wife were traveling, and I can't even remember where, and they were on the plane, and on the plane with them was a huge family from India, and it was aunts and uncles and moms and dads and kids and all over the plane. And they were very friendly, and they would walk up and down the aisles with bowls of food and, feed all of their family, and then they'd offer it to strangers, and they were very friendly, and everyone was just waiting for the plane to take off. But there was one old man who was sitting there reading his paper, and he wouldn't look up for anything. He just sat there and read. And kids were running by, and people were talking, and he just sat there. And so Sean looked over at him and thought that was kind of curious that this one old man wasn't interacting with them at all. And he didn't think much of it, and eventually everyone kind of settled into their seats, and the plane was about to take off, and all of a sudden, this old man leaps out of his seat. He must have jumped 3 inches off the chair, and he's hooting and hollering, and everyone's looking, and come to find out, a water bottle had been in the upper compartment above his seat and had started leaking and was dripping through the vents onto him, and it startled that poor man so bad he nearly flew out of his seat. But other than that, he wouldn't move. So he told me that story. And next, he told me about a time he and his wife were going by train, and they were over in Wales, and I'm not quite sure where they were headed to, but it was time to board, and everyone got on the train, and so they went and got their luggage and got on the train and looked around, and there was no one in the train. And I thought, well, that's strange. Maybe there's, just not many people going on this trip. And so they sat down and waited, and eventually the train started moving. And so, okay, yeah, I guess we're going to the right place. But rather than going down the track, it went down the track and then backwards on another track. And they're thinking, what on earth? Finally, the train kind of shuddered to a halt, and they went and pushed the button to open the doors and looked out, and there's the tracks down there, and there's the train down there. They had accidentally gotten on a train car that wasn't going to be attached to the rest of the train. And so they stuck their heads out and looking around, and they didn't want to just run across the tracks and then try to hop up on the platform, so if another train came, that'd be disastrous. And so they're hanging their hands out the train door and waving their scarves around, trying to get somebody's attention. And all of a sudden, this little Welshman, only about 5 feet tall, finally sees them and comes over, and he is just furious. What are you doing on this train? Blah, 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 blah. Some of which was in Welsh, some of which was in English, so they only stood half of what he was saying. But the whole gist of the fact was, what are you stupid Irish doing on the wrong train? Don't you know this is the right train? And so finally, he huffs off and goes and gets a ladder and takes it over and leans it up against the train and gets them off the train, and then has to have his little flag to walk them across the tracks. And he was like a little mad toad, all puffed up. How could you go on the wrong train? And they said it was the funniest thing. Regardless whether they missed their train or they were in the wrong car, they were embarrassed. Watching the angry little Welshman was funnier than anything they saw on the rest of their trips. So, those are 2 tales from Sean or John that I was asked to share with you. So I hope you enjoyed them, and please share them with others. Have a wonderful day.